Hi, today I'm going to talk about a very important concept in the Quran, which is the issue of the expansion of the breast of Muhammad, the heart of Muhammad, and that of Moses. So there's a surah near the end of Quran. It says it begins with by the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Did we not expand your breast and release the burden release your burden, the burden that laid heavily on your back. So according to the hadith of the Imams of Ahl Bayt, most of the hadiths, there's some that contradicts it, but most of the hadiths, ones that are authentic and they're authenticated too, and it says it's by Ali, right? And we're these days, I think Shias they're a little ashamed of our hadith, so it's like they hide it and they don't really teach this hadith anymore. It's like, oh, everybody's gonna accuse us of being Ali centric or something. I don't know. Um, but basically, if you look at the prayer of in Suratal Taha, it says, and then you see how it's paraphrased everywhere in the Quran. There's a verse um, that says, my heart is constricted and my tongue does not reach, so send me Aaron. That's one of the prayers of Moses, and it's paraphrased in a different way in Surah Al-Taha, a very poetic way in Surah Al-Taha. And if you remember this prayer, you will remember that they're very similar. They're very similar, like the words to Muhammad and the prayer of Moses. And another important verse that clarifies that the knot on the tongue of Moses and the constriction on his heart wasn't a fault of Moses. It wasn't like a physical defect or anything. It says to Nabi Muhammad, we know your heart is constricted due to what they say. So basically, by what the disbelievers, their propaganda, their mockery of the Prophet, their mockery of God's signs and everything, he felt there was a constriction on his heart, and he couldn't say everything he wanted to say. He couldn't expand his knowledge. And if you keep in mind that the reminder is the messenger, like it says, we brought down to you a reminder, a messenger who recites God's signs. Um, you got to know that that position of the perfect human, he had that position, and also his family has that position after him. And for him to, and the prophets before had that position, but for him to preach that, it was very difficult. It was very difficult to manifest the station of wilaya, the station of mastery of the chosen ones, and particularly of Muhammad and his family over creation. Um, because the people, they were mocking him, they were belittling him, and it was a massive propaganda. And but Moses, even though they saw him do the miracles and they were awaiting him, it was similar in that respect, in that they started confusing like like low level of magic with miracles of Moses, and people started disbelieving, and like his people, like Moses' people, right after they saw a golden calf move, and so they thought, oh, well, this must be a miracle just like Moses' miracle, but it was nothing compared to that. Um, and they began to act ignorantly, and they reached a stage where they said, we won't believe in you until we see God, like we see him outright. We just see God outright, right? So the people of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were ignorant too. They were very ignorant. Even like after they received the message and they accepted God, oneness of God and everything, like they didn't perceive everything as it was meant to perceive. Maybe some of the companions, they perceived things at a very high level, But the people in general, they were very ignorant, and they had a deep hatred towards Ali. And this position that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam he shared, that was his position of leadership and everything, that was shared with Ali and his and his family. So it was very hard for Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to talk about these things and to explicitly preach like the way the Gospels were preached. And there's a hadith from the Prophet that basically regarding he says if it wasn't for Ali, he says it wasn't for, I would have like he basically would have praised Ali in a way that was with some words were not for the fact that he feared that people would do to him what they did to Jesus. So that could have two meanings. Like they could oppose the way they opposed Jesus with envy and everything, or they would have deified him. They would have made him into a god. They would have misinterpreted all of the Prophet's words, and they would have uh, worshipped Ali, right? So it has both of that, like both of those connotations, and that shows the truth. It's not easy to explain. It's not very easy to explain. Even with people accepting Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he even then, um, the Quran shows that it's something that it's something that the successors reveal in layers, like they explain to the humanity in layers, like Quran's revealed in layers, and then after him, Ali and the Imams are supposed to explain it and manifest its wonders by stages, not like it doesn't come out to society all at once, that knowledge. And that's one of the purposes of succession, basically, is to expand the knowledge that the revelations came with. Unfortunately, the nation fought the family of Muhammad, and so let alone accept the basics, they didn't receive that deep knowledge that Moses wished for the expansion of his heart. And one more thing to mention is that if you read the Bible today, read the Torah, you come across Moses. He doesn't pray the prayer that's found in the Quran regarding Aaron. Instead, he prays that the one who God will send will be the one that will release the knot on his tongue. And that's very important because Quran doesn't say how Muhammad exactly is in the Torah, but with all those verses about Aaron, and then if you read the Torah today, then God says, well, you have Aaron. So that's the way the Quran says, well, that's the way Moses responded regarding Aaron. And if you keep that in mind and then you go read the Torah, you'll know that the knot on the tongue is metaphorical. And because he wasn't going to send a messenger in the end times that was going to fix a physical knot on Moses' tongue or anything like that, right? So it was definitely metaphorical. It was definitely a parable, basically saying, yeah, that um, there's Moses feels like he can't expand his knowledge, like basically he's limited by his situation, and that brings another subject, is that Ali and Aaron, they're better in speech and more eloquent, not because they're actually better in speech and more eloquent than Muhammad or Moses, but it's because of the situation they are in. They are allowed to expand on a foundation, so they become branches that bring more fruit to the people, right? But then the foundations are built by Moses, by Muhammad, so they build the foundations of a society of Islam, and the Imams are supposed to bring it to maturity. But unfortunately, that didn't happen because the tree of envy had its way, and that's what ruled humanity for so long till today.